Blog Tornado. How are you? And before we move on, I would just like to wish you a happy new year 2020. I hope you enjoyed it well. And let's get right to it. And what we're going to talk about today is something rather important. It's a wall that pretty much divides humanity and extraterrestrial life out there. A wall of trust. Now, we hear a lot of abduction stories, but how many people actually share the trust with that person or what they've seen is the question here. And perhaps this whole thing is somewhat planned in a way that we just can't get too close to the wall. They're pretty much showing us the truth in front of our eyes through these abductees and their stories. And at the same time, we can believe any of these people to a point where we're 100% sure they're telling us the truth. And that's just the issue here, that wall of trust that's kind of blurring the line when you get into UFO scene, which is a big gray area to get into. So please stay with me today so I further explain to you what's causing this whole confusion amongst the stories, okay? So please don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you would like, and subscribe here at the bottom. That will be much appreciated. So let's get moving. And now you probably heard Bob Lazar's interview, okay? And you heard Barney and Betty Hill's story. You probably heard Travis Walton's story, Calvin Parker. Now, all these stories are interesting to say the least, but again, before these people can get through the wall of trust, public trust, there is a lot of work to do here, and that's exactly what's going here at Blog Tornado. Hunting for the truth or any kind of information, even if it's small details that could actually add up to something that could show a bigger picture. And such information recently that I got to the bottom of was this, and you probably figured out yourself if you listen to some of these interviews with Bob Lazar and Barney and Betty Hill's story. Something like Zeta Reticuli that comes up in both these stories, which again is very interesting. Now, Zeta Reticuli is a planet that's 39 or so light years away, so we might want to consider this as a bit of a fact, unless somebody borrows some information, which kind of distorts again the trust here, and therefore it's hard to tell again what is real, what is not. However, these abduction stories have something interesting to say, and we shouldn't dismiss such information in any way. Again, everything is possible in life if we put our minds to it, okay? So again, some of the stories might sound ridiculous to us now, for instance, like I talked about in my previous video, such as teleportation machines. It might seem like, a hyperloop by Elon Musk. The way I describe this, if you look into the future, you will understand why I think hyperloop one day, or any kind of fast vehicles that are present now, might one day be actual teleportation machines. It might be funny right now to understand such a crazy idea. However, if you're able to see into the future, you just have to understand that such things will be possible at some point. So what seems very slow now will one day be super fast. And that's something I would like to talk about today to kind of open up to this kind of possibilities of extraterrestrial life out there. And as you know, the universe is so humongous and therefore infinite on top of that, which means that anything and anything can exist out there in the universe. We just have to keep our minds open. However, it's about time that we start doing that for real and start taking some of these extraterrestrial abduction stories more seriously. Sometimes, I'm thinking we're just stepping on our own feet by not understanding these people who've been abducted by these extraterrestrials. And such stories such as Bob Lazar's story, Calvin Parker's story, Travis Walton's story, Barney and Betty Hill's story, all of this information that is golden in some ways. Some people up until now, they just don't buy it. And that's the whole problem here. However, no one said that everyone has to believe, but those who do certainly have an open mind to what's possible, to the possibilities out there in the universe. As I talked about it previously in my video, the actual future that we think of that's coming towards us yet to come, it doesn't necessarily mean that is the future of the universe. Such future that's coming towards us perhaps already happened on many other planets long time ago. And for the reason being, because the evolution process simply took place before our evolution. And therefore, it proves that perhaps Bob Lazar is telling us truth regarding the UFOs at S4, because judging from technology, the way he described it, certainly spells future. It's technology that we cannot understand, and therefore we're not capable of replicating it. And again, we have to start waking up to these possibilities of extraterrestrial life out there, of this interesting reality. However, for some who are not believers, that's fine, but those who are, most likely might be some scientists or people who are at the edge of humanity and therefore understand that such possibility of extraterrestrial life is a natural thing. And that's okay. It's better to be left in the hands of scientists such as Bob Lazar himself. He understands this kind of technology and therefore is anything but close-minded to it. So, however, there is a conflict between these alien abduction stories because we don't know who is telling the truth sometimes, and that is the sad part of this UFO gray area, if you're getting into it. Sometimes you might even hear about strange things such as reptilians, how this reptilian race is trying to enslave our world. And as you know, David Icke talks a lot about that. And then you're gonna hear gray aliens, how with big heads and big black eyes, and the usual type of aliens that everybody is talking about, how these extraterrestrials are at war with reptilians, okay? And been at war for thousands of years. Then you're gonna hear a story that seems to be authentic, and it's coming from an alien abductee, and they will tell you something else, for instance. And then again, the trust here becomes a problem again, because, for instance, what they're saying that on board of that UFO, they've seen gray aliens, 3 of them, and they saw reptilian on top of that. So now, how come they're all friends suddenly? And they seem to be very authentic when they're telling the story. Not just that there are 3 gray aliens and reptilian, but now there was also a human being on board that, was also present. So now I thought reptilian didn't like human beings, they tried to enslave them, and gray aliens don't like reptilians, and then again, what the heck is going on? So that's sort of thing that's confusing this whole UFO scene sometimes, and unfortunately is very sad. And that blurs the line between the truth and what's real and what's not. And this happens quite a lot in UFO mania. So the trust factor is that wall that sometimes we can't get past because some people just like attention, and they're destroying this whole UFO scene. Could it be purposely? We don't know. Could they be behind the government? Again, we can't tell. And such things are possibility, just to confuse things even further. So we have to understand that such fake stories are a reality for a reason. And sometimes people being purposely framed, set up so they can cover the truth behind the extraterrestrial life. And that's what's going on out there on YouTube when we try to hunt for the truth. And that's why here at Block Tornado it's so important, at least for me, to get to the bottom of things. I don't want to be thinking of something that is realistic when it's just another science fiction fantasy story. And that's why I like to analyze things quite deeply to understand, to get some sort of hint that perhaps, I'm not watching a sci-fi movie, or I'm not listening to some sci-fi story that's made up, but it's an actual truth. And that's the whole purpose of Block Tornado. Now, again, it's not an entertainment channel, okay? So that's just the whole idea behind extraterrestrial life. If it's real or not, that's the question. And that's why Bob Lazar's stories are very important. All that information, all those videotapes he made, documentaries, that could give us some sort of clue that perhaps he's telling us the truth. He does seem to know a lot about science. He is a scientist and he does know his stuff well, okay? And again, it's an important clue that he might be telling us truth because he knows a lot about this UFO at S4 and how it operates and so forth. However, what makes him different from other abductees, that some abductees really, they don't have any such profession behind them. Some are they just go about everyday life, They're normal people, except in Bob Lazar's case, he's a scientist, okay? If he would like to make a story up, he could pretty much do it because he's got the knowledge of how to do it on top of that. And the fact is that such a person would want to talk about UFOs at the same time, and technological ability of these UFO vehicles kind of makes you wonder if he could make it up actually. So that's that, but there's a lot still to get into if you watch my previous videos. But yeah, sometimes digging up his old documentary movies might help you understand more that perhaps he either knows a lot about technology and what's he talking about because it's scientific information, but at the same time makes you wonder if he could actually made up a story like that because, it's told from a scientific perspective, and that's all you're gonna get from Bob Lazar. A lot of pen and paper work, but hardly any emotions in his stories, and that's the factor that is very important when you're connecting to people, and people will try to connect with you through those emotions, just like you would a musician, for instance. Musicians express their feelings and you will feel what they feel. Unfortunately, a lot of this fact is not present in many of these UFO abduction stories. So you wonder what really is going on. And I do talk about this in my Bob Lazar and No Element of Surprise video, about how some of the stories just don't connect on the soul level, and therefore it's hard to get into, to understand or believe any of these UFO stories, which is understandable. We should not dismiss some of the stories for sure, because they just offer so much for humanity, and especially in Bob Lazar's case, that was a gift from aliens supposedly, or part of some sort of archaeological dig. But that kind of technology in our hands could mean many things for us, for humanity. So this trust factor that stands, this wall that stands between public eye and alien abduction and alien abductees is something that, we should try to break down, because we have to keep mind open, or at least use our logical mind that pretty much tells us that yes, there should be some sort of, or whatnot, extraterrestrial life out there in the universe, okay? And when we look up at the stars at night, we don't know, you might not know, but there's actually extraterrestrials that are actually watching our planet. We're just like a tiny dot in the sky, just like they are from where we are looking at them. And if you look up in a starry night, you will see many stars, and we have to assume that at least one of those stars has beings on it that are looking back at us right now. So keeping an open mind is an important factor when it comes to extraterrestrial life. Again, there's so much to learn from extraterrestrials, again, because the future is out there in the universe. It's not down here on Earth. Whatever happened, or whatever is going to happen down the road for us, is basically already happened on other planets thousands of years ago, as you know from Bob Lazar's story about those UFOs, how advanced they were, and now you know why. And again, we have to look to the stars to take this shortcut. Otherwise, going around the block, it's a long way around. So, that's why keeping an open mind and trying to establish some sort of communication with extraterrestrial life, it should be something to look forward to more seriously than we do now. And as a matter of fact, as I talked about it before, a lot of this extraterrestrial life, such as orbs and even flying saucers, are already present here on Earth in many of these abduction stories. And that just tells us that aliens has already established communication with us. Only if we knew how to communicate back with them is the question. So again, going back to this trust story, please stay with me a little bit longer just to get this out of the way. And what these abduction stories are telling us: Travis Walton, Calvin Parker, Barney and Betty Hill, Bob Lazar, all these people have been chosen. They are messengers to our humanity that we cannot see because they're just regular people. But that is not what's going on behind the closed doors. All these stories has been implanted or engineered or put inside our DNA to kind of get us ready for something, which is the arrival of extraterrestrials. However, they are already here, and that's something that we need to open our minds to, okay? And we have to get through this wall of trust and listen to those abduction stories word by word, okay? Of course, everyone has a right to analyze them as much as possible, but unless you have a solid proof of some sort that anyone who's been abducted by aliens has stepped on their toes while they were saying something in their stories, you certainly, it's something that should be told to the public for the very reason because there's so many fake stories out there. So I do encourage you, if you have something to say about Bob Lazar or any other abduction stories, see what you can sniff out, because hunting for the truth is what this channel is all about. And any kind of information out there that seems authentic and can actually prove that or disapprove of those abduction stories is definitely most welcome on this channel. Okay, again, this channel is not about entertainment, it's about the truth hunting. Okay, so you probably heard about truth hunters and exactly what is going on here. We're trying to get to the bottom of this gray area of UFOs. So again, thank you very much for staying all the way till now. There's a lot I would like to talk about that I didn't mention in this video, but we'll just leave it at that because you have probably fallen asleep a long time ago. So if you made it all the way here, I will thank you very much again. I appreciate that you're interested in this truth hunting with me. And again, I encourage you to comment, especially if you saw orb or extraterrestrial or flying saucer, since I have few people that actually had experience regarding flying saucers. It's definitely a treat to talk to people who have such experience, and to me that's just amazing. I'm also a witness of UFO orb phenomena. You can read more about it at blogtornado.com in the UFO section in the UFO and orb phenomena article. And I talk about my experience with this orbs, the strange lights in the sky that I do talk about in my previous videos, why these orbs could actually be part of Illuminati symbol. Again, Illuminati means illuminating, and as you can tell, the upper part of the pyramid is actually hovering up in the air, floating in the air, so that could give you a little bit of clue that orbs perhaps are connected to this Illuminati symbol. And not just that, the all-seeing eye, the e pluribus unum, the eye of providence, okay, the all-seeing eye. I strongly believe that orbs are watching us throughout our history, okay? So what the hell is going on, people, is my question here, okay? So please, let's wake up and understand what the hell is this Illuminati symbol doing on $1 American bill, okay? It's just a very unusual sign, and not just that, but it's like all around the world, okay? So what the hell is going on? And if I'm correct that this symbol is connected to the orbs, then we have that much to talk about, and that's why I made a few videos regarding orbs and this strange lights in the sky, this orb phenomena, okay? So anyways, I don't want to bore you any longer. Thank you very much. I upload videos every day, every second day, every third day. And again, Happy New Year, and hope you celebrate it the best you can. And don't forget to give it a thumbs up or subscribe. That will be much appreciated. Okay, so thank you again, and I will see you after the holidays. Cheers, take care, peace, Happy New Year. And keep your eyes in the sky in case you see a UFO fly by. Oh, one more thing. I forgot one little thing, which is the moral of this video today, if you will. If we cannot trust each other, then What's the point?